All right. Well, as I said in the last video, today we're working on grain trucks. Hopefully this one will start, because I forgot when I got done with wheat to pull the battery back out and throw it on the maintainer. Well, the fan comes on, so it's got some juice. Oh, come on, girl. She's low, but she started. We'll let it sit and run for a minute. I decided I'm not gonna bother changing the oil in either one of them, because both of them got oil changes last year. They've got like 500, maybe 600 miles on them. Both of them, the oil is still as crystal clear as the day I put it in. If the oil's clean, there's no sense in changing the dang oil. They didn't get a lot of miles on them. I used Dad's truck a little bit heavier than mine last year, so it's probably got a few more miles on it, but there ain't no sense in dropping perfectly good oil out of it to put it just. So I'm gonna pull it down, check the brake fluid, check the hydraulic oil, grease it, you know, go through it real quick, but I'm not going to worry about changing the oil. They don't get enough miles on them in a year to get the oil dirty, so. But as you can see, and I want to let that thing charge for a minute. I mean, normally once it's running, it doesn't take it long to top the battery back off, but as you can see, beans in the last week have really turned it into high gear. There's been guys cutting down here just across the border in Indiana for probably 7-8 days now, and I've been hearing the lowest number I've heard so far has been 7.7% moisture. There have been several guys I know that have been cutting in the morning when the dew is on and stopping by noon. This field didn't for how oh boy, these things are gonna pick nasty. The leaves aren't coming off, but these things turned out pretty darn good for how bad they got burnt with that herbicide injury. Them top pods though, they didn't I'm betting these beans are pretty small. Oh yeah, those are just little BB beans. Takes a lot of those to fill a combine hopper. Thank you, drought. Had to fight to get them in the ground, and then I mean, if it wasn't for these green spots, I mean, truthfully, I could honestly probably be out here today. I tell you what, the way these things feel, I could probably be out here cutting beans today if it wasn't for the green spots. And it'd be one thing if you had like a 20-acre field and you had like 10-15 acres of dry and, you know, a 5-acre green spot off in a corner or something, you go back and you pick off. But when you got green corners and stuff like this, it doesn't make sense to come in, pick the stuff off, leave the green spots, and then come back for 10 bushel of beans. That pod didn't fill out all the way. What do the bottom pods look like? Those are a little bigger, but not much. this is gonna be miserable. The more trash stays on them, the dustier they get, and that's just, it just makes for not a fun time. That much more material you pull through the combine, that much more material gets ground up, that harder it is to, or that much harder it is to clean. Then you can see right where there's a tile line, where that green spot is all the way up the hill. That's a tile line. Can't really see any of the laterals going that way, but where all the green is up there in those short rows, that's the main. So there's green on top of the main, there's green on top of that one. And you can see there's one right about here, and you can see there's some green beans going that way. So anyhow, beans this year probably not going to be good. They had potential, but yeah, it's not going to be. I mean, if it's dry, it's still going to be a lot more fun to harvest than it was last year, but it's not going to be a good harvest, if you know what I mean. We were too wet and then too dry. So anyhow, I'm going to pull this thing down to the shop and we'll go over it, and then we'll get Dad's truck out and we'll go over it, and then we'll be done for today. Okay, first things first, check lights. On, 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 on. Some of my bed lights, on. Those are brake lights, that's on, that's on. Some of my bed lights get a little goofy. That's on, because, and I keep telling myself I'm going to rewire this thing one of these days, but when they wired it up, they used Scotch locks. And I think I've talked about it before. Next to, well, wire nuts are perfectly adequate for residential use, so I'm not going to say that. Although if you use wire nuts on mobile equipment, you're an idiot. But as far as like automotive wiring, the stupidest, worst connection ever designed by anybody for anything. Like, they corrode easy. They're just junk. So every once in a while, if you get a light that's not working, it's not because the bulb's burnt out, it's because you got to come back here and jiggle the wire, and then the bulb will start working. High beams. Good. Oh. Why? Huh. Interesting. I've got no turn signals. And this is why we check lights. Do I have? Really? I wonder if I have brake lights. Hey, so you know what makes your you know what makes your turn signals work? Helps if the flasher's plugged in. I don't know exactly what happened. I don't even know what would even got close to it. But it was just like in there like that, and I was up here looking at the fuses, and I don't know what I did. I moved that. I don't even know where it was anymore. Or no, I moved this thing. Whatever this flap of firewall cover is supposed to be up like that somehow, but I moved that and somehow it knocked that out. And it's like, oh, hey. Shoved her back in and now we got turn signals. So I was getting nervous because I was like, man, if I gotta start taking this fuse block apart, or it's not a fuse block, it's a bus bar, but if you gotta start messing with that bus bar as greasy or as rusty as some of those studs are, you might end up breaking stuff. That's good. That's good. Okay. And I did have brake lights, which was the other part that was confusing me, because at least according to this, the power for the brake lights and everything else all comes off the same two lugs on the bus bar. So I was like, okay, how can I have brake lights but no turn signals? So, crisis averted. Actually, I do need to, because I looked at my main lights and they were good. I forgot to look at these to see if they were good. So let me check those and then we'll move on to more mechanical type stuff. And these lights didn't want to work. I'm guessing it was the Scotch lights that they had back here. So we're gonna do a little work here. This guy's gonna do an extension because they cut the pigtail way too short. Might need some regular wire strippers to get this one. Like, they got like an inch. That's not much to work with. Okay, so we gotta add on to that. So we're gonna take a nice little butt splice here. And throw that on there. Didn't give you a whole lot of extra wire on these guys neither. Okay, now I should have enough. Oh yeah, extra wire for days. And then we're going to twist these two together. And then we can shorten this guy up some and leave a little slack in it. Twist it around. And this guy here, which will hopefully be deep enough. Okay. Now, as long as my brakes work, throw a little electrical tape on that to protect it. Or I suppose I could heat shrink it. I don't really have a heat shrink sleeve, but either way, and do something to tie this back up, and then that'll be good, as long as they work. Okay, I got these lights working. They're kind of dim. Here's a grounding problem, but it's not. What I'm gonna have to, I think I'm gonna end up having to replace that whole light bar, because the aluminum backer is corroding, and there's corrosion in all the rivets and stuff that hold these to the backer, and you can wiggle them and make them. It's just, I think it's just time to replace that bar. So, but anyhow, on to greasing. Okay, she's all greased. Power steering fluid's good. I just checked that. Brake fluid is probably a little low. Nope, not bad. The passenger side front wheel cylinder on this thing, it only leaks if it sits for a long period of time. Like in season, when you're running it every day, this thing will not lose a single drop of brake fluid. But if it sits, and it's not like it loses, it never makes, the backing plate on the hub will just be dark. It'll never actually look wet. So, I mean, it's a slow leak. And like I say, it only does it when it sits. It never leaks when it's being used. One of these days, I'll finally break down and actually fix it. But this truck has all new, or had, when I bought it, all new brakes on it. So, I don't know if they didn't do wheel cylinders. If I remember right, you can't get the wheel cylinders, but you can get rebuild kits for them, or maybe you can get rebuild kits and new wheel cylinders anyway, regardless. Or if it's just inherent of the style of wheel cylinder these things use, that if they sit for long periods of time, they just weep a little bit. I don't know. But it says check brake fluid every, what's that sticker say? Every 30 days. So, anyhow. Okay, power steering fluid, brake fluid. I checked the coolant before wheat, so it should be good. Yeah, she could use a little bit. Actually, shoot. I don't know if I got any here. It might all be at my house. Otherwise, I'll have to go get some from my house and do it later. Okay, coolant's topped off. It probably took about a quart, maybe probably less. And then the engine oil's good, and as you can see, it is like clear as clear can be, so I am not overly worried about it. clean the air cleaner before wheat, coolant, brake fluid, power steering fluid. Check the air in the, I need to check the air in the tires, but it's greased. Lights work. I gotta check the air in the tires and she should be good to go. All right, checked all the tires. Fronts need a little bit of air. Rears haven't lost a single pound since I put them on last summer. So those new rear tires and rims were worth every penny. I need to get the fronts matching now, but that's a project for another time. So, oh shoot, I do need to check the hydraulic oil. Need to do that. Get a flashlight. This part's fun. This part's fun. These truck bed places could have, I mean, they were making these things cheap and plentiful as fast as they could, so I understand how this ended up the way it ended up, but they could have come up with something better. You gotta go up like this because the bed's gotta be down when you check it. I mean, it could probably be up a little bit, but okay, and then we gotta go like this and like. And the worst part is there's no dipstick, so you don't really know, but I think it's good. It looks okay. I could see it. It looks like it's up in here somewhere, so that should be plenty. But you gotta be careful because if you raise the bed up, you gotta keep in mind those cylinders hold a crap ton of oil, and when those cylinders are fully extended, that reservoir is damn near empty. So if you raise the bed up some to check that oil, you got to remember to compensate for the fact that when you let that bed down, you're gonna pump a crap ton more oil back in there. So, but I got a cylinder that's starting to weep, and I think that's going to be a winter project, just to drop these things and repack them. But this guy here is, as you can see, the other one's dry. It's just this one, but if you're going to do one, you do both. So anyhow, with that, my truck's ready. Alright, I went and took her for a run around the block to charge that battery up and move the fluids around, and realized that my windows were atrocious, so I cleaned the windows, and now I'm about out of daylight. And I'd like to go take a peek at a couple more bean fields before I run out of daylight, because I'd like to start formulating a plan as to when we're going to start harvest. Which looks like we need to be getting back to some field work pretty soon, because you can always tell when I start putting too many shot videos in a row, because viewership starts going. But such is life. So we will, yeah, I'm about out of, like I say, I'm about out of daylight. So we will tackle Dad's truck tomorrow after work, which it should be, it's going to be the same thing basically, but we'll get a few little bits and pieces of it, and then we'll be good to go. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Alright, get Dad's truck going over today. Same thing, it shouldn't need a whole lot, but also same thing, lights first. I went and checked a few bean fields last night after I left you there, and I think probably Monday, Tuesday time frame, we're probably going to be rolling on those. There are spots that I could probably, I could probably be running like today if I really wanted to, but there's still green spots, and it's not that I'm worried about the beans in the green spots being green, because the rest, I mean, the beans are so dang dry right now that you could throw green beans in there all you want. You're not gonna throw the moisture off. I just don't want to slug the combine. So that's the biggest thing making me hold off right now. And like I say, I don't want to have to go back for corners and stuff and drive the combine all over Timbuktu just for no reason. So, but I think by Monday, Tuesday we'll be good to go. And I still got a couple things that need taking care of, so there ain't no sense in rushing into it. Oh, I guess I didn't look, and I guess I forgot to look on my trucks. Do the cab lights work? I think they're working, I can't tell. I know Dad went through last fall and got all the cab lights working. They were on. I think that one might not have been, but I'll have to check it when it's a little darker out, I guess. But anyway, dry beans. I was talking to my buddy Ryan earlier today, and he said they've been running beans for the last couple days. He said they quit. He said they gotta wait for ranks. They're so dang dry. They're losing money on them now. Between the sickle shatter and the shrink, it's just getting ridiculous. And I checked, there's a couple guys been starting to run corn already. Last those are parts. Sunday when we got home from that concert, I checked this corn down here. This is the 98-day stuff. I need to go look at the field up the road here. That's the same that got planted a week ahead. This was already 26.5%. So I was gonna pull a couple ears this evening again and see, just to start tracking it. One of the guys I work with down at Helena, he was testing his corn, and a week ago, I think we were talking about it last week, he was already down to like 21-22%. So I'm getting those 2012 dry grain vibes, but not the 2012 good yield vibes. So anyhow, lights are working. We don't gotta worry about that. I do need to put brake fluid in it because it's got no brake pedal. So anyhow, we'll get under the hood here. Yep, she was low on fluid. This one we never have figured out where it goes. The backing plates are never wet. The hydro plates, or the hydrovac's never wet. There's nothing ever wet. But if it sits, the brake fluid disappears. No idea where it goes. Normally you get fluid in it, it will prime itself back up. Normally. Okay, I had to get Dad and we had to bleed the brakes up. I think it would be a wise idea to start looking for a new hydrovac for this thing. It's about like trying to find a hen's teeth, but you'd think, I mean, there are literally tens of thousands of these C-Series medium duty Chevy trucks still floating around from the 60s and 70s. I mean, it's still, I mean, at least around here, it's still commonplace. I can't tell you how many guys are still running these things as grain trucks. There's a guy that's got a twin to this one that I actually saw him hauling in a few loads of beans this week. But I mean, these things are all over the place. You'd think somebody would have hydrovacs available for them. They don't, unless there's somebody on here that knows a better place to look. But there is supposedly a place over in Chicago. Unfortunately, I don't have a name for you. But one of our friends that still runs a couple of these trucks found it because he was having hydrovac troubles. And they supposedly rebuild them. But I guess their success rate is kind of hit or miss, and it's dependent on the condition of the hydrovac to begin with, because I guess parts for them are just as hard to come by as the units themselves. She needs a little bit of engine oil. I didn't run it that long, so it shouldn't really pressurize the radiator. Tell you what, you get used to working on my truck with the tilt hood, and then you go to this thing with an alligator hood, and you're like, come on, man. Coolant is plenty good. So we just need to get some oil in it. The air cleaner. Oops. The other thing that's goofy about this truck that it would be nice to find the parts to change is get rid of this oil bath air cleaner. I didn't think that there was anybody by 1976 that was still running an oil bath on anything, but here we sit. Well, I guess we'll just take it all the way off because it's wanting to stick together. I know this thing comes off somehow. It's either comes off at the valve cover or off the stem itself. I mean, honestly, with a 4-barrel carburetor on a big block, you wouldn't think that an oil bath air cleaner would be able to flow enough CFM to feed the engine, but apparently they do. Alright, she's greased. Oil's topped off, brake fluid's topped off, air cleaner's back on with new oil. Tires are checked. Now that the sun glare was gone, I rechecked the lights. All the cab lights are working. All the other lights are working. I think that's it. Oh, nope. I did forget one thing. Actually, I forgot two things. I got done checking this tire. I forgot to check the duals, or the rear driver duals. I checked the passenger. And we need to check the old hydraulic oil. Which, if I remember right, this one you actually do have to do with the bed partially up. Yep. They didn't give you a whole lot of margin for error on that bed, did they? Okay, those tires are good. I'll run the bed up a wee bit here. I wish this truck had the rear controls like my truck did. It'd make doing service work like this a lot easier. Anybody else not like getting under a bed like this? I mean, you can put a 4x4 or something back there, but that's a lot of lever movement above you, and I feel like if you ever did have a failure, it's just gonna snap something because of the amount of weight and where it's located. And what we need to do, or what I need to do, is make something that would work on both trucks. Make a dead man that'll like hook a frame member under the box and come down and set on the frame somewhere so that you can run the box up, put that in there, set the box down on it. Because it's not often that you really have to work underneath a box like this, but you do on occasion. I dare say we're good. It was going all the way up for wheat, so they never give you any dipsticks or anything to know what the oil level's supposed to be. All right, I think we're good. So can't think of anything else I need to check on it. So I guess, other than putting the duals back on the 4150, which I'm hoping to do this weekend, and I still gotta, Dad's running stuff in to get lasered tomorrow, or lasered out tomorrow. And he's going to take the skid pan for the 4150 in with that batch of stuff for the dozer. Because that's the last thing he's done to the 150. Although the ground's so damn hard, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do any chisel plowing now or not, because you're not going to get the plow to go in the ground. It'd probably be a decent year to do some deep ripping, but as hard as the ground is, I don't even know if I want to do that, because she's going to pull her poor guts out. But anyhow, so trucks are ready, combines are ready, just need to get the 150 ready, or finish getting the 150 ready, and then everything should be ready for fall. Oh, and I got to get the grain drill calibrated, which I'm hoping to do that this weekend too, get that calibrated for wheat. I ordered another mini bulk of non-bearded, so this year I'll have a good comparison I got about 1,500 pounds of a bearded variety left over from last year that we're going to be planting, and then I got 2,000 pounds of a non-bearded to try. They won't necessarily be side by side, but they don't really have to be. I just want to see which one dries down better. And I got enough, the math worked out at 150 pounds an acre. I'll probably see what I can do with the drill to make it come out to and even like 25 acres worth of seed, but it basically comes out at 23 point something once you add everything up. So anyhow, with that being said, I guess the last point I wanted to hit on, because we were talking about it today at work, and I feel like it's something that somebody needs to say, and I might as well say it. This year has already not turned out that great, between being a wet spring pretty much for the entire Midwest, having everybody struggling to get seed in the ground, and then stuff getting flooded out when that hurricane came through. And I mean, it could be worse. We could have been down south and been those guys that were directly affected by that hurricane, but we're talking Midwest stuff here, because I honestly don't know what kind of season the rest of you guys had down Gulf Coast way in regards to weather compared to us. But anyhow, this fall, it looks like the good chunk of the upper Midwest is going to be hot and dry, and it doesn't look like, from the few guys that I do keep up with a little bit, it doesn't look like anybody's seeing overly exciting yields. It hasn't been a good year, so it doesn't need to get any worse for anybody. It's going to be hot, it's going to be dry, it's going to be dusty. When you guys, and I'm going to do my due diligence to try to get better at it this year, because of harvest conditions and the way everything's going to be. When we're out in the field running combine and even doing tillage and stuff, when we got dry fodder and stuff floating around next to hot manifolds and stuff, it's already been a bad enough year. Just let everybody do their due diligence and slow down and do a good job of keeping the combines blown off. Probably going to want to be doing that a couple times a day, and just nobody needs to be burning up any equipment this fall, because like I say, it's been a bad enough year for everybody already. It doesn't need to get worse with anybody burning or having a combine fire or a tractor fire or a field fire or anything like that. It's real easy, and I'm guilty of it too. When things are going good, you just stay up there in that cab and just keep on rolling. And this might be one of those years where, everybody gets used to unloading on the go. Maybe every once in a while you just run the combine up to the truck and unload the hopper and hop out and do you a quick 10-minute walk around and check for hot spots and smoldering and anything piling up. And it's just one of them years you probably just need to be, everybody should just needs to be extra careful and pay attention and try to not take an already kind of crappy year and make it worse with an insurance claim, because the few minutes that you lose of field time, field work, walking around a piece of equipment to check for fires and hot spots and bad bearings and stuff is a whole lot better than losing days and weeks because you burn a piece of equipment up and there's none to be had. So that's my PSA for today's video and this harvest is slow down, take your time, don't get in a hurry, and don't burn nothing up, because I got a feeling the way things are shaping up, although we do have some rain in the forecast for this weekend, but as dry as it is, we're going to need a pretty heavy dose of rain to undo the drought conditions that we're in. So just everybody be careful out there, and let's have a good harvest. And nothing exciting gonna be about it, because the yields ain't gonna be great, and everybody knows the grain prices ain't gonna be great. So let's just get through this one. Everybody be safe, and we'll do it all again next year. So I guess that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.